The Cathar Armada, pristine and silent, pierced Earth's atmosphere with the meticulous precision of cosmic surgeons. Their lead dropships, designated Vanguard 1 through *-5*, sliced through the upper troposphere, engines humming a note of utter confidence. On their primary command bridge, Commander Xylos watched the planet unfurl below, a blue marble teeming with life, ripe for compliance. Their orbital scans had reported a standard Class M world, some atmospheric disturbances, but nothing that their gravitic dampeners and atmospheric stabilizers couldn't handle. They anticipated primitive resistance, easily quashed. Xylos processed the data, optimal parameters for planetary pacification. Then, Vanguard 3 shuddered, not a mechanical failure, but a violent, inexplicable turbulence that rattled its hull. Its stabilizers screamed, attempting to compensate. Below it, a vast, swirling mass of cold, humid air, previously unflagged by long-range scanners, began to coalesce with terrifying speed. A sudden microburst, driven by converging air currents and the dropship's own disruptive descent, ripped through the sky, twisting its graceful trajectory. On the ground, in what remained of a coastal refinery, a handful of human survivors looked up. Sergeant Maria, Rhea, Cortez squinted, shielding her eyes from the sudden, lashing rain that whipped her face. The air grew heavy, smelling of ozone and salt. "That's not normal weather," she rasped, her voice strained over the sudden furious roar of the wind. Her gut clenched. "That's angry." She felt the tremor in the earth, the profound shift in the air pressure, a primal instinct honed by a life lived on this volatile planet. The Cathar pilots, their consoles awash with red alerts, struggled. Wind shear, extreme pressure differentials, unexpected updrafts and downdrafts all assaulted their precision systems. Their perfect descent vector spiraled into chaos, a chaotic gyre they couldn't control. Vanguard 3 buffeted relentlessly, dipped dangerously close to a towering, derelict oil rig, its skeletal metal frame a rusting finger pointing accusingly to the bruised sky. "Evasive maneuvers," a Cathar pilot shouted, its voice tinged with a fear its kind rarely knew. Its internal processor logged. "Uncategorized environmental hostility. Collision imminent with indigenous structure. Data incomplete. Structure integrity unknown." Rhea saw her chance. Her eyes, sharp despite the sting of the rain, locked onto the plummeting ship and the swaying rig. "Everyone, secure lines. Get ready to pull the trigger." Her team, not soldiers, but engineers and maintenance crew who knew every creak and groan of this abandoned infrastructure, had spent the last 2 days wiring the rig's decaying support structures with crude, jury-rigged explosive charges. Not to bring it down entirely, but to asterisk shift it. Just enough. The dropship struggled, its advanced sensors overloading, unable to distinguish between genuine structural threats and the planet's raw, unpredictable fury. It was a desperate dance of chaos. A dance the Cathar couldn't follow, couldn't even comprehend. "Fire!" Rhea screamed, her voice a raw, defiant cry against the storm. A series of dull thuds echoed across the bay, followed by a grinding shriek of twisted metal. Not massive explosions, but precisely placed detonations designed to weaken crucial stress points, sending a wave of vibration through the ancient steel. The rig groaned, listing heavily, its vast, rusting silhouette now directly in the path of the plummeting Vanguard 3. The Cathar had planned for human armies. They hadn't planned for a planet that refused to play fair, aided by its children who understood its every whim. The collision was deafening, a symphony of screeching metal, shattering glass, and alien panic. The wreckage plunged into the churning water below, a monument to their overconfidence. They thought they would conquer a world. The Cathar commander Xylos stared at the holographic projection of Earth's coastal sector. The red blip of Vanguard 3, along with the harbinger of compliance's initial planetary assessment, had vanished, replaced by a swirling mass of atmospheric anomalies and a new, unsettling data entry. Structure Vanguard 3 * lost to unexpected environmental kinetics and indigenous structural collapse. Xylos's processing units flashed. Aberration. Unforeseen variables. Probability of natural occurrence, 0.0001%. This wasn't resistance. This was illogical. His orders crackled through the comms. Dispatch ground reconnaissance units. Secure crash site. Analyze all indigenous environmental threats. Prioritize human presence. They expected a cleanup operation. Below, the wind still howled, though less furiously, whipping sea spray and grit against the remaining structures. The air was thick with the scent of damp metal, ozone, and salt. Sergeant Ria Cortez, soaked to the bone but vibrant with a raw, primal energy, watched the Cathar dropships descend. Their new landing zone was further inland, away from the immediate coastal chaos, on what was once a sprawling cargo port. "They think they're smarter now," Ria muttered to her scout Jax as they huddled behind a stack of shipping containers. Water pooled around their boots, icy cold. "They'll land clear, try to approach by land. No more falling rigs." Jax, a lean man whose eyes missed nothing, nodded. "Their thermal scans will cut through the fog. They'll see us moving." "What's the play, Ria?" "The bay," she replied, a grim smile touching her lips. "They're avoiding the deep water, but they don't understand the currents." The Cathar reconnaissance units, a dozen enforcers and 2 heavy walkers, disembarked with efficient precision. Their multispectral sensors pierced the low-hanging coastal fog, registering minimal threats. Their gravitic dampeners, now on high alert, compensated for the damp ground and occasional instability. They moved towards the wreckage site, scanning for human movement, for predictable ambush points. They didn't account for the relentless pull of the tide. Not a storm surge, but the insidious churning power of the ocean itself, funneled by the man-made structures of the port. As the lead enforcer unit passed a partially submerged pier, its gravitic dampeners registered a sudden, significant increase in drag. Water, previously a minor inconvenience, began to pull at its heavy plating, undermining its balance. "Localized hydrocurrents increasing," a Cathar voice reported, a hint of confusion in its tone. "Unclassified aquatic resistance." Ria's team was not attacking directly. They were simply guiding. Jax, with his salvaged remote control, had already deployed a dozen small, weighted buoys, each emitting a low-frequency sonic pulse designed to disrupt Cathar gravitic field harmonizers. The buoys were indistinguishable from ocean debris, carried by the very currents the Cathar now fought. Suddenly, a massive school of fish, agitated by the sonic pulses and the unusual alien presence, erupted from the water directly in front of the Cathar heavy walkers. Not a weapon, just a mass of panicked marine life. Their delicate sensors, attempting to categorize the biological anomaly, briefly overloaded. In that critical second of distraction, the hidden buoys pulsed, intensifying their output. The lead heavy walker, already fighting the treacherous currents, lurched. Its gravitic field, momentarily disrupted, failed to compensate. With a metallic shriek, it slipped, one of its massive legs plunging into the churning, corrosive salt water. Sparks flew, then silence, as its systems short-circuited. Heavy walker unit incapacitated by environmental factors. A Cathar comms operator shrieked, its voice now laced with genuine distress. Engaging human element, but there were no humans to engage directly. The Cathar patrol, designated Urban Sweeper 7, moved with methodical precision through the skeletal remains of what was once a sprawling metropolis. Their advanced thermal optics registered only the cool, inert concrete and steel, broken here and there by the faint warmth of scavenging birds or the deep, subterranean thrum of geological shifts. The air, thick with the scent of damp dust and decaying infrastructure, held no discernible human signatures. Commander Xylar, observing from his dropship, noted the efficiency. Sector cleared. Minimal organic resistance. Compliance imminent. He was confident. He was also profoundly, dangerously wrong. Deep within the forgotten service tunnels beneath the shattered financial district, Sergeant Leo Vance wiped sweat from his brow. The air was heavy, metallic, and cold. Above, the rhythmic, alien thud of the Cathar patrol vibrated through the very bedrock. Leo, a former city engineer who knew every pipe and conduit like his own veins, grinned grimly. "They think this is a dead city," he muttered to his team. They don't know it's just sleeping. His comms crackled. Cathar units entering designated Ghost Zone, Sector 4 Beta. On your mark, Leo. It was Anya, the comms expert from her hidden bunker. The Cathar patrol halted. Their multispectral sensors, usually infallible, were suddenly overwhelmed by a cascade of conflicting data. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to echo from the narrow alleyways, followed by the clatter of what sounded like loose debris. Then a sudden, jarring screech. But their visual and thermal sensors showed nothing. Anomaly detected, a Cathar scout reported, its voice static-laced. Audio distortion. Probable wind interference, or structural settling. Dismissing as environmental noise. Leo watched them from a grimy vent cover. Dismissing. Always dismissing. They didn't understand that every echo in these concrete canyons, every rattle of a loose sign, every gust of wind through a broken window pane, was now part of a carefully orchestrated symphony of confusion. His team wasn't fighting them directly. They were simply guiding the city's own chaotic metabolism. Anya, using a network of scavenged speakers and a repurposed public address system, broadcasted a single low-frequency hum. It wasn't a weapon, not directly. It was a frequency known to vibrate loose masonry, to make old, stressed girders sing a mournful, unsettling tune. The Cathar patrol, already on edge from the phantom sounds, felt the subtle tremor, not enough to trigger a full seismic alert, but enough to register as unsettling instability. Their internal gravitic dampeners flickered, struggling to find solid ground. Then, the final touch. A flock of pigeons, agitated by the low-frequency hum, burst from a crumbling skyscraper, their wings beating a sudden, thunderous rhythm. The Cathar, their optics suddenly flooded by a swarm of biosignatures, momentarily panicked. Their plasma rifles hummed, searching for a visible threat. "Now!" Leo yelled, slamming his hand down. A pre-placed charge, deep within an abandoned utility tunnel, detonated. Not a huge explosion, but a focused concussive blast designed to shatter a specific, weight-bearing concrete pillar. The ground shuddered violently. Above, an entire section of a decaying pedestrian bridge, already weakened, groaned once, then collapsed with a deafening roar. It didn't just fall. It cascaded, sending a wave of concrete, rebar, and twisted steel directly onto the path of the disoriented Cathar. "Ambush!" A Cathar commander shrieked, its voice thick with something alien to fear. Their advanced shields, designed for focused energy attacks, crumpled under the sheer, raw kinetic force of a collapsing city. They expected human resistance. They got an urban avalanche, orchestrated by ghosts. We don't just build these cities, we live in their bones, and we teach them to bite. The Cathar Tactical Command Center, high above the battered cityscape, was awash in a cacophony of alarms, not loud, blaring sirens, but the insistent, high-pitched krektamas of data anomalies, the low, frustrated hum of overloaded processors. Commander Xylar, his multiple eyes narrowed to slits, stared at the holographic projection of Sector 4 Beta. The blips of Urban Sweeper 7 were gone, replaced by a single, flashing red warning. Unit lost, uncategorized environmental impact. His internal diagnostics flashed. Correlation with previous, anomalous kinetic events increasing. Threat assessment escalated. "Report!" Xylar demanded, his voice a low growl. The Cathar officers, usually models of efficiency, shuffled. "Commander, our ground sensors registered a sudden, localized structural collapse," a comms officer stated, its voice strained, combined with mass avian dispersal. "And rodent activity." It paused, its internal logic struggling. "Our environmental protocols classify these as non-threats." Xylar slammed a fist on his console, the sound echoing unnaturally. "Non-threats do not eliminate heavy enforcer units. Our data is incomplete. Our understanding is static." Below, in her dimly lit bunker, 20-year-old Anya Sharma grinned, a triumphant, almost feral glint in her eyes. She watched the Cathar tactical chatter, Now a river of confusion and increasing panic stream across her salvaged screens. "They're panicking," she whispered to Leo Vance, who stood beside her, his face streaked with grease and satisfaction. "They can't compute a planet that actively hates them." The air in Anya's bunker smelled of hot electronics and human determination. She wasn't just observing. She was fanning the flames of their confusion. Using their own corrupted data, she amplified the low-frequency urban hums that now constantly plagued the Cathar. The grinding of shifting rebar, the groans of settling concrete, the rhythmic drip of water in forgotten pipes, all became amplified, distorted, a constant, irritating chorus of a city turning on its invaders. A Cathar probe, dispatched to Sector 4 Beta, hovered over the wreckage. Its sensitive audio receptors, designed to filter out ambient noise, were now overwhelmed. Every whisper of wind through broken windows sounded like a phantom wail. Every creak of stressed metal seemed like a deliberate threat. Its optical sensors registered the lingering dust cloud as unidentified atmospheric particulate causing visual distortion. It was seeing ghosts. "Commander, probe data indicates persistent environmental hostility," an analyst reported to Xylar. "Visuals are unclear. Audio registers high levels of what appears to be distress calls from indigenous fauna, amplified. Species classified as Rattus norvegicus and columbolivia." "Rats and pigeons?" Xylar muttered, a new emotion, cold and unfamiliar, gripping him. Fear. Not of overwhelming force, but of the utterly illogical. The planet wasn't fighting with advanced weaponry. It was fighting with KT itself. And its most adaptable, most stubborn children were simply teaching it where to strike. Anya pushed another wave of low-frequency static into the Cathar comms. Not a message, just noise. Noise that felt like a growing, unshakable dread. They came to conquer a world. They're discovering they woke up a god. The air buzzed, not with insects, but with the angry residual hum of a dying Cathar power core. Sergeant Wrench Reynolds, his face streaked with grease and grim determination, grunted, straining against a heavy pry bar. Twisted, obsidian alloy groaned under his effort, slowly revealing the inner workings of a downed alien dropship. The wreckage was a monument to Cathar overconfidence, speared into the rocky Canadian shield like a defiant fist. For them, it was a tactical loss. For humanity, it was a hardware store. "Careful, Wrench," called out Corporal Lena Petrov, her eyes scanning the complex alien conduits. She held a plasma cutter, jury-rigged with human power cells, its beams spitting sparks as she worked on a structural brace. One wrong move, and this whole thing goes nova. And we just lost our new light show. The Cathar orbiting forces, observing from afar, registered the faint energy signatures from the crash site. Commander Wheeler's optical array zoomed in. "Indigenous life forms," he dictated to his log. "Scavenging activities observed. Primitive attempts at material extraction. No threat." Their cultural dogma held that their technology was too advanced for any lesser species to comprehend, let alone utilize. These, humans, were merely picking at the bones of a god. An act of sacrilege, perhaps, but ultimately pathetic. Wrench just chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "Pathetic, huh?" He wiped sweat from his brow, leaving a black smear. They didn't know humanity's greatest strength wasn't what they built, but what they could take, and formake. His team, a motley crew of mechanics, engineers, and survivalists, had been working non-stop for 3 cycles, transforming alien defeat into human ingenuity. The metallic scent of scorched rock and alien circuits mingled with the sharp tang of human sweat and coffee. They weren't just extracting, they were learning. Lena, using an ancient crude oscilloscope and pure intuition, was mapping out the power flow of a Cathar energy shield generator. It was like trying to read a foreign language with a broken dictionary, but humans excelled at impossible tasks. "Got it!" she yelled, a burst of triumph in her voice. The harmonic frequency. It's incredible. We can adapt this. Adapt this, they did. Just beyond the wreckage, shrouded by camouflage netting and the dense, ancient forest, stood the harvester. It was a repurposed logging vehicle, its massive tracks now heavily armored with scavenged Cathar hull plating. Its old hydraulic arm was replaced by a crude but powerful electromagnetic crane capable of lifting entire sections of alien wreckage. And on its roof, glowing with an ominous blue light, was a Cathar energy shield generator hooked into a monstrous array of human-made capacitors and a beefed-up diesel engine. Scanners picking up a Cathar patrol heading our way, a sentry's voice crackled over the comms. 2 enforcers, 1 scout drone, minimal threat assessment from their end. Wrench straightened, his face hard. Minimal, eh? Let's show these bugs what a real scavenger can do. He climbed into the harvester's cockpit. Its crude controls a stark contrast to the alien tech now grafted onto its frame. The machine rumbled to life, a deep, guttural growl that vibrated through the ground. The Cathar energy shield pulsed, solidifying, bathing the forest in an eerie blue glow. The approaching Cathar patrol, still confident, still dismissive, saw only an anomaly. A primitive vehicle, glowing strangely. Then, the harvester moved. Its heavy tracks tore through the earth, its salvaged alien shield deflecting the initial, confused plasma fire from the enforcers like raindrops. The Cathar had brought their gods of war. Humans had just turned their fallen angels into demons. We don't just pick up the pieces. We build something new from them, something utterly terrifying. The Cathar command vessel, Vigilance of Order, pulsed with a new kind of alarm. Not the sharp blare of imminent physical threat, but the insidious, high-pitched wail of compromised data streams. On the bridge, Commander Xylos watched the central holographic display flicker, then distort, showing tactical overlays that shimmered with impossible geometry. His internal processors registered corrupted data flux, source unknown. Their secure network, designed to be impervious, was hemorrhaging. Commander, Sector 7 Gamma, reports critical system instability, a comms officer exclaimed, its voice tight with digital feedback. Their environmental sensors are showing anomalous readings. Atmospheric pressure fluctuations of 700% in under a minute. Biotic activity registered as catastrophic swarm event across an entire continent. Impossible! Xylos's optical array swept over the data. He zoomed in on a Cathar ground unit's telemetry from a supposedly pacified urban zone. Its thermal output graph spiked wildly, showing hundreds of heat signatures appearing and disappearing in seconds, then settling to 0. Then the image pixelated into static, followed by a low, guttural roar that permeated their encrypted comms. He rubbed his temple plates, an ancient Cathar gesture for severe processing load. This was not a weapon. This was chaos. Deep below, in a repurposed server farm humming with scavenged Cathar tech, 20-year-old Anya Sharma grinned, her fingers dancing across a makeshift keyboard. Wires, thick and crude, linked a salvaged Cathar data core to a network of ancient Earth-based servers humming with life. The air smelled of hot metal and ozone, a subtle tang of electricity that made her hair stand on end. "They're biting, Leo," she murmured to her team lead, Leo Vance, who watched over her shoulder. "Their systems are trying to reconcile raw planetary data with our little gifts." Leo, a former network architect, nodded, his eyes glowing in the cold blue light of the screens. They can't distinguish between a real solar flare and a perfectly timed EM burst from an old radio tower, or the electrical discharge from a hurricane and a simulated data packet. They weren't just hacking. They were weaponizing the planet's own electromagnetic noise, its unpredictable weather, its vast, untamed energy. The Earth itself was providing the raw, volatile material for their data plague. The Cathar, beings of pure logic, designed their AI to filter out all extraneous noise, all natural interference. They saw it as inefficient. Humans saw it as camouflage. And now, as a conduit. A Cathar patrol unit, stationed in a valley, reported sudden, intense, localized seismic activity. Their ground sensors shuddered, registering a magnitude 8 tremor, yet the wider planetary monitors showed nothing. Another unit, attempting to communicate through a supposedly clear atmospheric window, received a burst of corrupted data, a rapid-fire sequence of animal calls, human distress signals, and alien-specific warnings, all scrambled into a meaningless, terrifying cacophony. "Commander, our diagnostics suggest a self-propagating data virus," a Cathar analyst stammered. "It is corrupting our data models. It is adapting to our countermeasures. It is using the planet's own chaos as a vector." Anya watched their panic on her screens. She felt a surge of grim satisfaction, a deep, human pride. They didn't just crack the Ka code. They taught the Ka Kanakai to be afraid of a thunderclap, to interpret a flock of birds as a tactical swarm, to see a shifting sand dune as a planned ambush. "That's the beauty of it," Anya whispered, a cold, ruthless edge to her voice. "They have no idea what's real anymore. And when you can't trust your own senses, you've already lost the war. We don't just understand the chaos of our world, we learn to speak its language. And then we teach it to scream." The black expanse of space, a clean, predictable void, or so the Cathar believed. From the bridge of their orbital command vessel, the stalwart Decree, Commander Xylar, surveyed the swirling chaos of Earth below. Ground operations were challenging. But here, in orbit, in the pristine vacuum, their control was absolute. Their patrol units, sleek, automated drones, traversed their designated sectors with flawless precision, their sensors sweeping for any indigenous space debris or human orbital defenses. All systems reported green, zero threats, until a flicker. A Cathar sensor operator, its multifaceted eyes scanning the vast holographic display, reported, "Commander, an energy signature. Faint, uncategorized, bearing impossible." The blip appeared, pulsed erratically, then vanished, leaving only the cold, empty darkness. "Probable sensor ghost, Commander." Filtering, deep in a shielded bunker, miles below the surface, bathed in the sickly green glow of salvaged Cathar tech, Ilara, Vance grimaced. Her fingers, calloused from years of working with delicate electronics, danced across a repurposed alien console. "They called it a ghost, didn't they?" she murmured, a glint of defiance in her eyes. "Good. Let them chase phantoms." The air in the bunker tasted metallic, electric. Ilara wasn't a soldier. She was an astrophysicist, a former satellite engineer. She knew the void wasn't empty. It was alive with solar winds, radiation belts, orbital debris, and Earth's own immense electromagnetic field. The Cathar saw a sterile canvas. Ilara saw a weapon waiting to be unleashed. Her team, a motley crew of amateur astronomers and radio enthusiasts, were guiding the planet's natural chaos. Another Cathar patrol drone, chasing a newly registered fleeting energy signature, entered a section of high orbit. Its internal diagnostics reported erratic magnetic field fluctuations, far beyond expected parameters. Its comm system buzzed with static, punctuated by sudden, sharp bursts of white noise. No discernible source, no direct attack, just interference. Maddening, targeted interference. Anomalous data flux detected. Commander, a Cathar tactical officer, reported to Xylar. Patrol Unit ALPHA-9 experiencing severe navigational drift. Multiple sensor failures. Source still unidentifiable. Probability of deliberate sabotage 0.00001%. Ilara smiled, a grim, satisfied curve of her lips. Her team wasn't sending missiles. They were tapping into Earth's most powerful geomagnetic storm patterns, nudging them, amplifying them, with precisely timed, low-yield EM bursts from repurposed terrestrial power stations. They were transforming harmless solar flares into targeted electromagnetic pulses, guided by a deep, almost spiritual understanding of their planet's cosmic rhythms. The Cathar patrol drone, its systems failing, suddenly found itself buffeted by an invisible force, its thrusters firing wildly, attempting to compensate. Its optical sensors briefly cleared, only to show a vast, glittering field of ancient, minute space debris, micrometeorites, long-forgotten satellite fragments, now electrified and distorted by the amplified EM field, shimmering like a deadly cloud of cosmic dust. Not a direct attack, but a fatal, calculated redirection. Collision imminent. The Cathar pilot shrieked, its voice thick with terror as its drone spun out of control, helplessly drawn into the shimmering chaotic debris field. The Cathar had believed the void was theirs, clean and predictable. They were wrong. It was just another extension of Earth, a vast, silent hunter, guided by the desperate ingenuity of its children. We don't just exist on this world. Our reach, and its fury, extends far beyond its surface. The bridge of the Cathar orbital command vessel, the stalwart Decree, hummed with a tension colder than the void itself. Commander Xylar, his multifaceted eyes cycling through diagnostics, watched the red blip of Patrol Unit ALPHA-9 disintegrate on the main tactical display. Lost. Not to kinetic impact, not to energy weapon fire, but to debris field collision, aggravated by unprecedented geomagnetic interference. His core processors flashed. Error. Unpredictability quotient. Extreme. Doctrine violation. Fear probability threshold exceeded. Commander, our data models are failing, a Cathar tactical officer reported, its voice strained, laced with an almost imperceptible tremor. The orbital environment. It is exhibiting patterns that defy all known physics. Solar flares are spiking with impossible periodicity. Earth's magnetic field is generating localized anomalies. We are seeing ghosts where no ghosts should exist. Xylar ran a metallic digit across his data slate. He was a being of logic, of absolute certainty. But Earth was dismantling his certainty, piece by piece. First the ground, then the atmosphere, and now the sacred predictable void. This was not war. This was madness. Miles below, in her makeshift bunker, Alara, Vance allowed herself a small, weary smile. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and human ingenuity, felt electric. Her screens glowed with Cathar tactical chatter, now a symphony of confusion and dread. "They're breaking," she whispered, her voice low and fierce. "Their perfect logic can't handle a universe that fights back without rules." Her team, a collection of tired but defiant faces, meticulously calibrated their repurposed satellite dishes and high-energy projectors. They weren't just disrupting Case's sensors. They were weaving a tapestry of terror. A subtle EMP, perfectly timed with a solar wind fluctuation, made Cathar patrol drones see phantom asteroid fields. A precisely modulated radio signal, mimicking a distant supernova, overloaded their deep space comms with terrifying, nonsensical warnings. They were weaponizing the universe itself, shaping its chaos to specifically target the Cathar psyche. Another Cathar patrol unit, designated Delta 3, was ordered to sweep a sector where ghost signals of human orbital platforms kept appearing. Their captain, Xylos, felt his internal processors struggling, battling the phantom static that now infected his very thought patterns. His optical sensors registered fleeting shadows that weren't there. His navigation system kept glitching, showing impossible trajectories. The void, once a symbol of control, now felt like a predatory, living entity. "Commander, we are detecting an energy surge," Xylos reported, his voice thick with digital feedback. "Not hostile, but it is drawing in space junk, a localized gravitational anomaly. Probability of natural occurrence, 0. Alara watched them fall into the trap. It wasn't a gravitational anomaly. It was a subtle, precisely directed burst of high-frequency energy, carefully aimed to agitate meaty, existing, stable debris into a tumbling, cascading field. Humans understood chaos. They made the Cathar live it. "That's it," Alara breathed, a chilling calm in her voice. "Now they know what it feels like when the universe itself turns on you." The Cathar were not just fighting humans. They were fighting the anatomy of fear, meticulously crafted by those who understood this unruly, defiant world. You can survive pain, but you can't survive losing your mind to the silent, screaming void. The Cathar sky fleet descended, dozens of sleek, black interceptors and heavy transport ships. A lethal ballet of advanced alien engineering tore through the stratosphere above the vast Siberian plains. Their presence was overwhelming, their gravitic dampeners humming a resonant bass note that vibrated the very air. Commander Xylar, overseeing the aerial sweep from his flagship, noted minimal resistance, just a scattering of antique human jets on long-range radar, easily dismissed. Atmospheric conditions, nominal. aerial dominance established. Then, the sky itself began to crackle. Not just a distant storm, but a sudden, localized surge of atmospheric pressure that slammed into the Cathar lead elements. Winds, previously calm, whipped into a furious frenzy, gusting at impossible speeds. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and the coming rain, grew heavy, oppressive. Captain Sergei Volkov, his gnarled hands gripping the controls of a salvaged, heavily modified MiG-31 Foxhound, grinned grimly. The ancient jet groaned under the strain, its engines screaming a defiant roar. He wasn't alone. A dozen other human pilots, in their patchwork aircraft, flew into the heart of the brewing chaos. "They think they own the air, eh, Anya?" Sergei rasped into his comms. "Let's show them who truly understands it." From a hidden underground facility, Anya Sharma, a former climate scientist, watched her screens. She wasn't a pilot. She was the conductor of this tempest. Her team, using repurposed power stations and a network of high-altitude weather balloons seeded with specialized aerosols, had created a localized microburst storm cell, amplified by the planet's own powerful jet streams. It wasn't natural. It was guided. It was weaponized. Cathar interceptors, designed for high-speed, controlled combat, were suddenly caught in a maelstrom. Their advanced atmospheric sensors, designed to navigate predictable weather, spiraled into error. Severe atmospheric instability. A Cathar pilot shrieked over the comms, its voice laced with panic. Uncategorized wind shear. Gravitic dampeners failing to compensate. One interceptor, caught in a violent downdraft, lost control, tumbling end over end before erupting in a silent fireball. Sergei plunged his old MiG into the heart of the turbulence, the violent buffeting almost ripping the controls from his hands. But he knew this dance. He'd flown through worse storms in training. This was Earth, angry and unleashed, and he was its instrument. He banked sharply, a streak of rusty metal and raw defiance, emerging from a cloud bank to open fire on a floundering Cathar transport. His ancient autocannon spat shells, ripping through its weakened shields. The Cathar, in their sterile cockpits, were now fighting blind, their optical sensors obscured by driving rain and lightning flashes. Their perfect formations dissolved into scattered, disoriented targets. They expected an aerial dogfight, a clash of superior technology. They received a planet-sized ambush, orchestrated by humans who knew the sky's true nature. They're not adapting to the rapid pressure changes. Anya yelled, a thrill of fierce triumph in her voice. Their internal atmospheric regulators are overloading. Another Cathar dropship, its internal systems screaming, was torn apart by the sheer force of the gale, its wreckage scattering across the plains below like shattered glass. Humans didn't just fight the aliens. They learned to make the very air they breathed fight alongside them. We didn't just survive on this world. We learned to make it our shield. And our spear. The air shimmered, a distorted haze above the barren obsidian rock. Cathar ground units, a full battalion of enforcers and heavy assault walkers, were deploying into what their geological scans labeled Sector Omega-3, Volcanic Caldera, dormant. Commander Xylar, watching from orbit, noted the extreme heat, but dismissed it. Terrestrial thermal radiation, minimal atmospheric interference. Perfect for a decisive ground operation. This planet's anomalies were localized. Here, they would exert their will. He registered the faint, sporadic heat signatures below as mere geological activity. He was utterly unprepared for the monsters he was about to unleash. Miles below, in a repurposed geothermal power plant, Dr. Lena Petrova, a veteran volcanologist turned resistance leader, stared at her screens. Her face, streaked with sweat and volcanic ash, was grim. The plant, long abandoned, now hummed with a raw, desperate energy, its ancient systems rerouted, pushed far beyond their designed limits. "They're right on schedule," she rasped, her voice hoarse from the dry, acrid air. "Heavy units in position, moving toward the primary vents. The seismic charges are armed," Doctor, her comms tech, Marcus, reported, his fingers dancing across a salvaged console. "Pressure readings are stable. For now." The Cathar column advanced, their gravitic dampeners absorbing the uneven terrain, their optical sensors filtering out the hazy heat. They detected a subtle tremor, but their internal processors logged it as minor seismic event, common for volcanic regions. They didn't feel the deep guttural groan of the earth itself, a slow, building anger that Lena and her team had spent weeks carefully prodding, amplifying. They didn't hear the subtle jummo-wad of superheated steam escaping through newly formed fissures. Lena nodded. Now, just the whispers first. From strategically placed ancient boreholes, a series of low-frequency sonic pulses erupted. Not explosions, but targeted vibrations, designed to resonate with specific fault lines and dormant lava tubes. The ground beneath the Cathar unit began to shake, subtly at first, then with increasing violence. Their gravitic dampeners struggled, overcompensating, draining power. Loose rock, baked brittle by millennia of heat, began to tumble from the caldera walls. Localized seismic activity increasing exponentially. A Cathar pilot shrieked over the comms, its voice thick with digital feedback. Extreme ground instability. Our gravitic dampeners are failing. Then came the new scent, the sharp metallic tang of sulfur dioxide, quickly followed by the suffocating acrid smell of hydrogen sulfide. Toxic gases, dormant for centuries, were now seeping from the ground, drawn up by the carefully orchestrated seismic agitation. The carefully environmental suits, designed for clean alien atmospheres, were immediately overwhelmed. Their internal air purifiers struggled, alarms blaring. Lena watched, a grim satisfaction in her eyes. "That's the beauty of it," she whispered. "They don't know what to fight. They just know the ground is trying to swallow them. And the air is trying to choke them." A Cathar enforcer, its internal systems failing, its pilot gasping for non-toxic air, fired wildly into the shimmering haze. Its plasma bolts carved futile scars into the ancient, unyielding rock. It was fighting ghosts, fighting the very air it breathed, the ground beneath its feet. And then, with a thunderous roar that shook the very foundations of the earth, a primary vent, carefully overloaded with Lena's seismic pulses, erupted. Not a full volcanic blast, but a terrifying geyser of superheated steam, ash, and incandescent rock. A primal, violent expulsion directly into the heart of the Cathar formation. Lava, thick and slow, began to seep from a newly opened fissure, its orange glow casting long, dancing shadows on the panicked alien forms. The Cathar scout fleet, designated Void's Eye, drifted in the silent, frigid expanse beyond Earth's upper atmosphere. Their mission: secure orbital superiority. Commander Zelos, his optical sensors sweeping across the pristine void, noted the planet's magnetic field activity. Strong, but predictable. The occasional solar flare registered as a distant, non-threatening phenomenon. His processing units confirmed. Deep space operations unaffected. Threat probability 0. They believed the cosmos itself was neutral territory. Below, deep within a repurposed Antarctic research station, Dr. Eris Thorne, a solar physicist with eyes as sharp as any Cathar sensor, grimaced. The air was frigid even in the bunker, but the console before him hummed with heat. Scavenged Cathar power cells straining to feed an ancient, modified particle accelerator. "They think we're just a speck on a planet," he muttered to his team, his breath misting. "They don't know we talk to the sun." His team, a collection of eccentric scientists and hardened technicians, were not building weapons. They were building an antenna, a massive planetary antenna. On the asterisk Void's Eye, a Cathar sensor officer reported, "Commander, anomalous energy fluctuations detected from Sol. Unprecedented particle ejection. Data suggests a coronal mass ejection is impacting Earth's magnetosphere with significantly amplified force." Xylos scoffed. "Natural phenomenon. Our shields are calibrated." But then his own internal comms crackled. A sharp, high-pitched whine. His optical sensors briefly blurred. Interference? In the void. Eris watched his screens. The particle accelerator pulsed, firing a focused, high-energy beam directly at the weakest point of Earth's geomagnetic field, acting like a cosmic tuning fork. It wasn't creating a solar flare. It was 2-4 directing it, taking the sun's raw, natural fury, amplifying it through Earth's own magnetosphere, and aiming it like a directed weapon. The cold hum of the bunker was filled with tension. The cold hard didn't understand that Earth's magnetic field wasn't just a shield. It was an asterisk anvil, capable of forging the sun's wrath into a precisely aimed blow. "They're getting hit," a technician yelled, pointing at a flickering Cathar ship icon. Gravitic dampeners failing. Shield harmonics destabilizing. The Cathar scout ships, designed for plasma bolts and kinetic rounds, were unprepared for a sudden invisible wave of radiation. Their shields, robust against direct fire, were being overwhelmed by a sustained, cosmic-scale EMP. Systems short-circuited. Navigation arrays went dark. Pilots shrieked, their voices laced with digital static, as their control interfaces melted. The Asterix Void's eye shuddered, its hull groaning under the onslaught. "It's not just a flare," Xylos yelled, panic finally in his voice. "It's localized, directed. This planet, it is weaponizing its own star." They thought space was a sanctuary. We taught them it was just another battleground. And the sun, our oldest ally. The bridge of the Cathar orbital command vessel, the stalwart Decree, was no longer a tableau of efficient calm. It was a cacophony of alarms. Not the precise warnings of weapon fire, but the desperate, system-wide shrieks of fundamental physics unraveling. Commander Xylos, his multiple eyes wide with something akin to terror, watched the entire holographic display of Earth's orbital space flicker, then distort into a maelstrom of red warnings. Gravity dampeners fluctuated. Shield harmonics destabilized. Comm systems screamed static. His core processors blared. Unpredictability. Quotient. Catastrophic. Orbital integrity. Compromised. Threat source. Planetary. "Commander, Sol's coronal activity is escalating beyond all predicted parameters," a Cathar tactical officer shrieked, its voice thick with digital feedback. "The magnetosphere is asterisk ripping. Gravitic field fluctuations are causing hull breaches across the fleet. This is not natural. This is a targeted celestial event." Miles below, in the repurposed Antarctic Research Station, the air was electric, thick with the smell of ozone and straining machinery. Dr. Eris Thorne, his face grim, eyes bloodshot from exhaustion, watched the Cathar fleet's agony unfold across his screens. His team, a ragged collection of scientists and engineers, were pushing Earth's repurposed particle accelerator and global power grids past their breaking point. "The sun isn't just shining on them anymore," Eris rasped, his voice hoarse, its asterisk screaming. They weren't just amplifying solar flares. They were systematically disrupting Earth's own geomagnetic field, bending and focusing it like a colossal lens, turning the sun's natural powerful eruptions into precisely aimed, planet-sized EMPs. The very fabric of space around Earth, normally a predictable shield, had become an anvil, and the Cathar fleet were being hammered. On the stalwart Decree, alarms blared for structural integrity failure. The ship groaned, its vast hull vibrating violently. Cathar officers clung to their consoles as localized pockets of zero gravity pulled at them, only for artificial gravity to reassert itself with a brutal, sickening lurch. Their optical sensors, designed to see the universe, now displayed only a blinding, distorted swirl of superheated plasma and crackling energy fields. "Commander, multiple vessels are reporting critical power core destabilization," a comms officer gasped. "Their shields cannot maintain cohesion against this force." Xylos saw it then. Not a weapon, in the traditional sense, not a projectile or a beam, but the sheer, raw, unbridled fury of an entire celestial body being wielded. He saw Earth's magnetic field, normally a gentle protector, now writhing like an angered serpent, lashing out at his fleet. And at the heart of that fury, manipulating it, guiding it with desperate, brilliant defiance, were the humans. "This is a planetary attack," Xylos screamed, his logic utterly shattered. "The world, it has become sentient. It is weaponizing its own star." Below, Eris Thorne closed his eyes for a moment, the strain immense. The hum of the particle accelerator was a deafening roar. They were risking frying their own planet, but it was the only way. The Cathar needed to understand. A Cathar transport, caught in a particularly violent fluctuation, broke apart, not exploding, but simply dissolving under the impossible gravitational and electromagnetic stress. Its wreckage spun into the glowing maelstrom, instantly vaporized. The stalwart decree itself shuddered, its primary shield generator failing. "This is the last warning," Eris whispered, watching the Cathar fleet retreat in utter, panicked disarray, their ships damaged, their resolve broken. "Leave. Or face a god." They thought they knew the rules of war. We just reminded them. This planet writes its own.